Well, hey everybody, West McDonald here, and I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of TigerTube. And if you can't see us, that means you're listening in on Tigerpaw Radio, so thank you very much. Do not forget, smash that subscribe button down below, and if you like what you see, be sure to comment and share the content as well. Super excited about today's episode. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but the world that we work in for technology is converging. Things are coming together. And managed service providers are looking for new ways to generate revenue and better serve their customers. And we've got that for you today. So my guests today are Brian Harris, director at TotalPrint, and Jay Christensen, VP channel sales at Vasion. How are you, gentlemen?
Very well, thank you.
Doing good, Wes.
Love it. And Brian, let's start with you. Maybe you can introduce yourself to our audience, as nobody knows you better than yourself.
Oh, I appreciate that. So Brian Harris, director of TotalPrint USA. I guess I would say I've been in the industry for about 30 years now. The first 10 to 12, I was actually selling IT solutions. I worked for the largest managed print provider in the US, and you know, we have state-of-the-art everything going on. So it's I've seen both sides of it, and that's what I do now.
I love it, and I cannot wait to dive into it for our listeners and viewers. And Jay Christensen, maybe you can introduce yourself for our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in the channel industry for over 20 years, but just came to the print industry just under a year ago. Came to Vasion. Vasion is one of the leaders in managed print services. In fact, we were just ranked the #1 print service on a very reputable ranking system. So very happy about that. Pleased to be here.
Love it. And thank you very much. And let's dive right in. One of the things with the MSP channel is that they have always looked at managed print as pretty much the plague, that when they look at all of the things that they offer their customers, the minute printers come up, you know, it's almost a gag reflex, right? That, you know, those are below us, or those aren't things that we deal with. And what you are both doing is changing that dramatically and bringing it in line more with a, I guess I would say, like a traditional, you know, managed service. So first of all, let's talk about, you know, MSPs have always avoided managed print. Why do you think historically that's been the case? And maybe Brian, with your, you know, background in managed print, maybe I'll take you there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a good way, what I think is, you know, even if I look at my parent company, Dex Imaging, right? They're built as the largest copier company in the US. And when we added managed print services as an available service to sell, even the copier reps were hesitant, right? They have something good going on. Why go ahead and add something that could potentially, you know, make, you know, create problems for themselves? So I think the MSPs, yeah, print isn't cool. We're trying to make print cool again. But I think that's one of the hesitations mostly is just that, the fear of the unknown. But, you know, the reality is, and we'll talk about it, is either address it or someone else will be addressing it in your account, and that could be a competitor.
Yeah, we've talked about that. And I'm in 100% agreement, right? That this concept of managed print, first of all, I know the moving parts were tough for them too, right? That they didn't want to have to consider getting service techs and having to be able to physically move toner, because that's typically things that MSPs have not had to do. And I know with the TotalPrint solution, they don't have to, right? So that's one of the biggest, you know, I think sort of arguments against their traditional feelings about, you know, managed print that they may have had in the past. Yeah. The second part is this idea that, you know, print is just toner and fixing moving parts, and it's not. That this idea of print management is also how we manage the print stream, right? And typically print servers on locations have been very complicated, and I know that, you know, a lot of the MSPs don't necessarily want to do that. So Jay, how do you help in that area?
Well, it's funny because I was at a MSP show last fall, and I came out into the aisle and grabbed a lady and introduced myself and said, "What do you guys do?" And I said, "Well, we help in managed print services." And she said, "Bleep that. We stay as far away from print services that we possibly can." I said, "Why is that?" And then she went into the same stuff that Brian was talking about. We don't want to be involved in it. It's just too much for us. And I said, "Well, that's why you need us. That's why you need a managed print provider to help you with that." And the main piece is the print server itself. They're expensive, they're clunky, it's 20, 30-year-old technology, and they don't want to get involved with that because it is such a pain. But 80% of calls to an IT manager is going to be around either password change or print services. And if we can eliminate that, then it's going to be a huge boon to the MSP, because they're going to be able to provide a service that they haven't been before. It's a noticeable hole in their service offering. And as Brian said, if they're not providing it, somebody else is going to, and that's going to open the door.
I love it. And I'll throw in myself a little shameless plug for us at Tigerpaw as well, right? That one of the complexities for an MSP is how on earth will I be able to build these kind of services if I decide to do them, right? And we've literally spent the last 2 years hiring MPS experts and working on the software rigorously to make sure that that managed print piece is in there. So that's available to office equipment dealers and managed print providers traditionally, but any of our customers that are doing managed IT, cybersecurity, traditional MSP, that's available, on the business management and automation side as well. So let's talk for a second. We've talked about a little bit of, I guess, kind of the prejudice, I guess, against managed print. I'll call it that, because it really is, in my mind, a managed service, right? That most printers and copiers, like, they have hard drives, they have RAM, they're connected to the network, so they are IT assets. They just happen to spit out, paper, either with black and white toner, or maybe in some cases color. And of course, there's a lot more sophistication than that in the copiers for document scanning and helping get that stuff into the cloud, right? But let's talk about the opportunity for, a second, right? So if a managed service provider is saying, okay, maybe I get you here, maybe that, maybe TotalPrint and maybe Vasion are doing things now that are more in line with how I offer service to my customers. But what's the opportunity? What can I expect, to basically add to my business to help grow my business if I decide that I would look at this? And maybe Brian will talk to you on, on the managed print piece for what you do first.
We have really launched and gone hard after the MSP vertical probably a year ago. And so we've talked to a lot of them. We have 60 or 70 right now that currently are working with us. We have another 60 or 70 that are reaching out to us almost on a daily basis. And, there's three things, right? And interestingly enough, the first thing is that competitive. Like, I would say 70% of the reason we get calls is, I'm looking for a print partner. I found one, I thought, they turned around and tried to take my business. Now, a few will scoff at that, but that is the main reason. The second reason that they reach out to us is simply because they got drug into helping a customer with print. The next thing you know, they're sending invoices for equipment they're not making money on, or they're trying to find toner cartridges. And then the final piece is the money, which I always find to be the funny piece, because it's always that the money isn't the big factor with them until the money's the big factor. Until the checks start getting up, and it's reoccurring revenue, right? They start making money. Then all of a sudden they're like, oh, hey, what did that account bill this month? So I would say those are the three reasons they reach out to us.
I love it. And certainly I will say that for the MRR, right, for that increase in monthly recurring revenue, that is something every business is looking for, right? That is gold if it comes to when your company is being evaluated, if there's a valuation going on, if you decide you're going to sell in the future, that the more recurring revenue you can put on that stack, the better. And I think the managed print piece is a great one.
Yeah, and if you think about it, it's a nice little byproduct. I mean, what are we really doing? What we're really doing is we're taking print off their plate. They have a company they can call when their customer brings up something that they just can't solve. So we take that print off their plate, we get rid of their competitors in their accounts, and that's a nice byproduct. And you make money while we're doing it, or you make money while we're doing it. So
yeah, I think it's an important piece, and you and I have spoken on this, and Jay, we have as well, is that in the competitive landscape, people say, well, I don't want to do this. And it's like, well, your competitors are, and they'll use print as a gateway to get into those accounts, right? So they may start with print, but they won't stop there. And Jay, maybe you can talk about that from your perspective on the print server side.
Yeah, absolutely. The software side of managed print services, which includes eliminating print servers or replacing print servers, that's a $17 billion opportunity. So that's a pretty big number. But like you said, that MRR is a huge piece, and we're able to provide a software. Not only are we going to save the MSP time and money, but we're going to help you save your customers money. And going into a more difficult economic, whether it becomes a recession or not, obviously there's a difficult economic kind of shadow there that we're dealing with. Customers and MSPs are looking to save money, and we're going to be able to help them save money and increase revenue. And so get that, increasing revenue and saving money is a huge piece. And, with software, as with most software pieces, you're able to get, as an MSP, probably a 50% margin on this on a recurring basis. And it's just the gift that keeps on giving. This is a software that you kind of set it and forget it. Once it's in, once it works and it's installed and it works, you don't have to worry about it, but you get that recurring revenue.
Yeah, it's funny. In my years, my background as a managed print services specialist, I would go into accounts and look at how they're printing, what their infrastructure looks like, and how their print servers and stuff are set up. And there's this huge opportunity right now to get away from that server infrastructure, right? To make sure, like you said, both from a cost savings perspective, but also a complexity perspective, right? To have that taken away. And customers will thank you. There was an age when quote unquote the cloud was a dirty word, but I certainly don't think that's the case anymore. And maybe you can just touch on that a little bit for folks that are watching or listening, how that's different from an on-site on-prem sort of print server configuration.
Yeah, absolutely. We figure that in the marketplace right now, we're going from earlier adopters to kind of the late adopter stage, because we're no longer having to explain as much as to why the cloud is important, right? There's a security piece right now. About 2 years ago, there was a huge vulnerability that was created called Print Nightmare. And large organizations were hacked through their print servers. A lot of times that people aren't realizing that just because it's just, like you said, spitting out paper, it's not part of their internal network. And so there was a huge vulnerability. None of our customers were affected by that because they already had these services. The print services were done direct IP within the internal organization. And all we're holding in the cloud is the print drivers and the business rules around it. So the print jobs are staying local. And all we're doing is we're creating those the print driver management and the rules management in the cloud. And so it creates a much more secure environment for the customer. So there is still, especially in large organizations, maybe some of the older organizations, telcos and things that are used to kind of older systems that they're still running on. The cloud, the way we have architected the solution is with security foremost. And so it really does actually increase the security and decrease the cost. Those print servers can be expensive. They're $5,000, $7,000. They should only be, reliable for about 5 years. And so you're eliminating those costs and actually increasing the security.
I love it. And, you mentioned the telcos, right? I can remember back in the day when the telcos were afraid both to offer internet services, right? That's just something that's not in our wheelhouse, and getting rid of their traditional sort of PBX systems, right? Well, fast forward, every telco is now an internet services provider and are likely offering some kind of unified communications option to their customer, which is usually cloud-based, right? So I think this is not
100%, yeah,
any different. And what it says is for an MSP that it makes it easier for them to manage it remotely, right? And I know, Brian, even for the physical pieces, this is where there's some confusion, right, with MSPs, and actually maybe not confusion, they just didn't have the option before. But what you're doing at TotalPrint allows them to have that same kind of approach. You remotely manage it, work with your customer. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but TotalPrint will take care of the service, the toner fulfillment, all those hard moving pieces, right?
Yeah, and we talk to the MSPs that don't want anything to do with it; they're forced into it. We talk to MSPs that have been doing their version of it through some manufacturers. So we've seen both sides. We've seen both sides of it. I would say that we're very good at what we do. We have, and think about it. I have Staples, so I get better pricing than anyone out there. I have a Deck Service Footprint. Those are my parent companies.
A national footprint.
National footprint where we can sit there and go, yeah, we can support 95% of your locations. If we're not there, nobody's there. That's the best way to put it. So we're good at it, and it's a difficult business to be in. And that kind of gets back to, why are MSPs shy away from it? It's hard to do it. There's just a lot of moving parts. There's freight, and with the world today and the economy and everything that's going on. I mean, it's an expensive business to be in. And if you try to be in it, sometimes it can end up not good.
Yeah, and outsourcing that, I think, is definitely the answer, right? And like I said earlier, Tigerpaw has even taken the business management piece of it, and we've spent 2 years getting it ready, right? So I think you've got this great trifecta now where, honestly, if you're not doing managed print, this does lead to my next question. One, I think we can all agree there's a financial opportunity, and let's just face facts, a better opportunity to serve our customers better, right? That our customers want one throat to choke. And when we say that we're going to manage all of their IT assets and we ignore printers, we're not doing that, right? And that also leads to a security problem. Most providers now are looking at some kind of cybersecurity offering for their customers. They're saying that we will protect you, we'll train your people on how to, avoid a lot of these phishing campaigns and everything else. We'll harden your assets. We'll make sure that we implement as much zero trust policy across the network as we can. Oh, except for your printers, right? You're on your own there. And I just don't think that's fair. So that opportunity is coming up for those that are wise to be able to move in with that as a gateway opportunity, as they talked about earlier, right? And let's talk a little bit more about that, because I think that traditionally, when people think of an office equipment dealer or a managed print provider, that they're separate, right? And that they're kind of staying in their own lane. And I know from experience that is not the case anymore, right? That I worked with a lot of large office equipment dealers that are all getting managed IT or MSP practices. They're buying companies to get good at this. And make no mistake, just because they may not be good when they begin doesn't mean that they won't be good down the road, right? That they have deep pockets and that they are coming after your business. So let's talk about how print can be used by an MSP to make sure that those people don't get a foothold, right? So Jay, maybe I'll start with you, right? Is there a way that we can help them play that into their security offering to use that as a way to sort of block out, let's say, a traditional office equipment dealer that may be coming in trying to take their lunch?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the buzz term of digital transformation has been around for probably 10 years. But really, what has that meant? And a lot of MSPs haven't gotten into that because they're providing a service. They're not necessarily an SI or a systems integrator that are going in and doing these digital transformations. But the digital transformations that are happening include all services that are going from on-prem to the cloud. And if you're not including print services in that digital transformation, then you're missing out and you're opening the door to a competitor to do it. Vasion's mission statement is making digital transformation available to everyone. And that means customers as well as partners, and enabling the partners to be able to provide that holistic solution to do it. Now, it's not just office supply providers that are getting into this business. You're going against the big boys of digital transformation providers that are getting in and doing large scale on-prem to cloud transformations, migrations. And if you're not including print services in that, you're going to open the door to large and small providers that are going to be able to kind of unseat you as that provider.
Yeah. And, it strikes me that obviously with this DX that you're talking about, right, that it actually enables competitors to come into the market faster and more efficiently, because they themselves have benefited from DX, right? And that allows them to go after more opportunities. I love it. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in maybe from a little different perspective. What any a local MSP can get together with a local copier company, and they can do some deals together. And that's a thing. That's certainly not the space we're playing in. And that's it's really interesting for how we're positioned right now. It's not a race for me to get MSP market share versus a competitor. Anybody that's even close to us, let's say they have half the nation covered and they're a copier dealer, they're getting in that space. So the race is really the MSP finding us and introducing us into their accounts so we can protect them, before the copier company that is just sitting in there waiting for them to make a mistake, and they take them out. So it's a really interesting time for
Yeah,
sure.
and I've seen it, Brian, and for the MSPs that are listening out there that are maybe going down that road where they say, yeah, we're just going to go with a small local, provider. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but do your due diligence. What kind of partnership doesn't run the risk at those smaller levels in particular for jockeying, for additional business, right? That those relationships can end. They may not go the way that you want. And that at least on a national level, a trusted level, right, with an organization that is wholesaling you that offering, right, basically making sure that they're offering you that piece of that business, but you still kind of own the account, right? And I think that's so critical for those out there that are considering it.
And I would say also, when you're looking at a provider, look at the future, not just what's going on today and moving the print servers to the cloud, but what's the next step? Because the next step has always been talked about eliminating printing completely, right? I don't think, you go to the hospital and you come back with 50 pages of printed material. We're not getting rid of the printer anytime soon. However, there are workflows that are moving digitally, which is great. It's saving trees, and it's being more importantly, much more efficient. And so it's finding a provider and a partner who can take you to that next step of your digital transformation process, which is moving everything to the cloud. So it's taking a analog print service and scanning it to the cloud, and then dropping that document into a cloud workflow service or a cloud storage service and so forth, to make it really a digital transformation completion.
Yeah, I got to think as an MSP, I would love to hold on to those printed pages, right? So I could figure out how to DX the hell out of them, right? So
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Like if someone else owns that print, then they control what the workflow is happening that's connected to that print. As an MSP or an IT service provider, if you own the print, that allows you to figure out ways to unprint it, right? Ways to actually bring in more solutions that are software based. And as you mentioned, the more that you do that, the better the margins get typically on some of those software plays and moving things into the cloud.
Well, and you're opening yourself up for other opportunities in there that many MSPs haven't even considered as an opportunity. You take that in and the big boys are doing that. You as an MSP can provide those services, because there's a lot of professional services dollars being left on the table by MSPs by not getting into some of those digital transformation plays.
Yeah, agreed. And Ryan, you've been in the business for a long time as well as I have, right? And that we are not we're not what's the word I'm looking for? We're not obtuse. We know that those MSPs are looking for ways to digitize more things for their customers and have more control over that. And I got to think having a piece of that, the way that you guys do it, it just makes it like a no risk scenario for them, right? That you have the service network, you can make sure the toner gets there, right? They can just worry about helping their customers and doing more DX, right?
If they want to digitize, right, you're going to have the data of every device and how much they're scanning and printing and copying. And then one day when they want to move off that platform, they have the numbers. They'll know better than anyone how to cost justify, return on investment, et cetera, et cetera.
And they'll make money in the interim. So that's the beauty, right?
Yeah.
Like, while that's happening, you'll be making money all the way through. Well, just in respect for both of your time and for that of our viewers and listeners, I think it's time we move into what I like to call the impossible question. And the impossible question is, and maybe Jay, I'll get you to start this one. If you only had one piece of advice for MSPs out there that are watching today, and IT services providers may be looking at managed print, what would that be?
I go back to what I just said. Don't forget about the future. Don't get so caught up in what you're doing today to forget about what it is that you're going to be making money on 5 to 10 years from now, and plan for that and get involved with partners that are going to be able to provide those services. Be a Fuji, not a Kodak.
Oh, I love it. There's a t-shirt in there too, Jay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. And Brian, over to you, the impossible question. One piece of advice.
Yeah, let's see if I can get this into one piece. I mean, it's interesting. Managed print has been around for a while now, but I would say a majority of the customers we run into still think that you have to lease your copiers and you have to buy your laser printers and then buy your toner for them. And I would say being again owned by the largest copier dealer, I know what goes on in that world. And here's a simple thing. If you have a copier in your account, find out how much time's left on the lease. A good copier rep will go into that 18 months before the end of a 5-year deal. They'll be in there 18 months early trying to spin that, flip that deal, and that just further entrenches the customer. So find out when the leases are coming up. And when you're part of TotalPrint USA, you are the biggest copier managed print dealer in the US overnight.
I love it. And I will give my one piece of advice as well, right? That for anyone out there, Tigerpaw has surrounded themselves with experts like Jay, like Brian, that understand the managed print industry intimately. We can help you. So make sure you reach out to us. We'll get you in touch with folks like Brian and Jay, and make sure that you start making more monthly recurring revenue on new services. So until next time, everybody, don't forget to subscribe, share this content if you like it, and keep learning. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.